Hello and welcome to our podcast, Cozy Conversations with the Sister Project. I'm Lauren. And I'm Michelle. And we're so excited you stopped by for a visit. Come on in. Yeah, make yourself at home. We're two Midwestern sisters who love a good old-fashioned conversation and enjoy sharing our life experiences with one another and you. Consider this your one-stop shop for cozy, mindful well-being, along with some entertainment and lots of wheezy laughing. Oh, you bet there'll be a lot of that going around. Our goal is to live our coziest life and inspire you to do the same because the truth is, we think it's good for your mind and your body. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, let's get cozy. Well, hello there, and welcome to Cozy Conversation with the Sister Project. I'm your host, Lauren, being joined by my cozy co-host, Michelle.
Yes, your conversationalist partner in crime.
Yeah, you guys, today's episode is a doozy. I made up words, and I don't care because you know what? Y'all know what I mean. And Michelle's here to help me speak better.
You know what? We're here for each other.
I've been making up words since I've been able to talk. I've always done it, and it's just part of who I am as a person.
It's who you are. It's why we love you.
Thank you. I love you too. All right, you guys, we've got some really exciting news. I'm wearing my Stay Cozy sweatsuit right now. It's a cold, rainy day here in Chicago. I'm like, what would be better than a sweatsuit? Nothing. Yeah. So I'm wearing a sweatsuit. And the reason why I wanted to point this out, because not this specific sweatsuit, but we are finally matching up with the gals over at Lemonade and the Sister Project have struck up a deal. And we have talked a lot about like just having our merchandise readily available. So it's not just like a 2-week or one-off kind of thing. So starting April 1, you guys, the Sister Project Cozy Conversations merch will be available on Lemonade's website. It'll also be on our website, but it'll take you right over to Lemonade. We're going to have 3 pieces to start with. The first one is going to be our OJ.
That's another documentary that'll bring you down.
Our OG hoodie, our Stay Cozy OG hoodie. It was in bone, but you guys, now it is in hot pink. And it's a little muted than hot. It's just freaking cute. It's the perfect pop of, it's like tulip pink. Mm-hmm. It's like a tulip pink. Yep. And so that one will say Stay Cozy. We're going to have our OG crew neck that says Cozy AF. That is one of my favorite sweatshirt brands ever. I like it to be a little big, so it looks really cute over leggings. And then we've got a new t-shirt coming out. It's a cantaloupe, kind of somewhat cropped. And on the front, this is a message for all, and especially to our WIF that's listening in. It says, care less. Just a reminder, don't let the little shit bug you. I know it's hard to do, but give it a go. This is a t-shirt that will remind you day in, day out to care less about the little shit that doesn't fucking matter.
And everybody that's walking towards you, staring at your chest is going to start caring less.
Exactly. Too. Yeah. You're actually just doing the world. You're doing the Lord's work.
The Lord's work.
You guys, Zanies is coming up. We're 3 weeks out, about 2.5, 3 weeks out. Okay. So April 12th. At 4 p.m., get your Zanies tickets. We are doing a live Cozy Conversations with the Sister Project conversation live on stage. We're going to have giveaways. We're going to have some games, tons of audience participation and engagement. Get your tickets now, $25 a pop. Bring your friend, bring your sister, bring whoever the fuck you want.
Bring your foe. We don't care.
Yeah, bring someone you hate.
And
just
all
bring
your hoes.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. And then join us for a Cozy Convo on April 12th. Other than that, as usual, we are so grateful for all of the listeners we have here with. Thank you. You pressing play means a lot. Please subscribe and be sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Bless your heart. Stay cozy. Enjoy the conversation. I want to talk to you about the anxiety you had after our photo shoot.
Let her rip.
Okay.
The anxiety was real.
Okay. We need to break this down a little bit because the photos turned out amazing. So you guys,
every better shots.
Yeah. So every summer,
go ahead.
Every spring and fall we get together with our photographer, Alina, who we've been working with for years.
Worshiper.
Yeah, she's great. And recently, she started using a flash with us, which if you are a business owner or if you're going to take photos for a party or a wedding that you are having, ask your photographer to use a flash. You're welcome. It makes everything better. It just pops you. It makes you look alive. You can't be ugly with a flash. I mean, I
I
think
mean,
it's kind of a foolproof.
well, and I was also thinking about this, Lauren, too. Like, you are fully responsible. Like, you and Alina, I feel like, kind of drive what do you call this? Like the set direction. Whatever
Photo shoot,
the
the
photo
photo
shoot.
shoot. Yeah.
I have to give my hats off to
Oh, I thank
you
you. I love doing it.
because a flash, I'm like, what is a flash? I'm over there
Oh,
just trying to like get my head in the game
sucking your
and not
thumb.
break the camera.
So we go and take our photos. And Michelle and I have gotten smarter and wiser. And these are just like some good business tips. Like if you're going to get your headshot for whatever, whether for work or you're taking some branded photos, get your blowout, let someone else just do your hair because it's going to look better.
Get an $80 ponytail.
That was Michelle,
Right?
which I didn't think there was a problem. Michelle rolls up. Oh, and by the way, I texted her 4 days prior a voice message, but her phone was broken. So I don't think she ever received it. And then the
I
night
didn't. I missed
before,
a lot of stuff that weekend.
I said, hey, Michelle, go find your other glasses or rock some contacts because it's this studio of Alina's is this beautiful, very bright, all windows. It's called South windows facing or
South facing windows.
yeah, there you go. So as the
It's like
name
being outside.
indicates, it's being outside. So I said, Michelle, don't wear your transition your lenses. You got to wear your regular ones or you're going to look like Stevie Wonder.
A blind person.
And then Michelle basically was like, no, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. I knew because it's like being outside, but you gave it a good college try.
I looked for my glasses. They've been lost in the move. I was going to.
So you still can't find them?
No.
Well, bad news. We have another photo shoot coming on up outside. So you might want to figure out what you're going to do.
Maybe I can go to West End Vision and pop out some frame lenses and
just wear some contacts underneath. And we took these wonderful photos. We figured out what to do with her glasses. And some of them she wore on and they look great. And then you started tweaking like 48 hours afterwards, 24 hours afterwards, Michelle's like, I am just super anxious about these photos. And Michelle, now that you've gotten the photos, like, what are your thoughts now?
Listen, the anxiety, like, it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm going to break the camera. Like,
No,
it's not,
I know
that's
it's
not
not that.
really what I'm thinking. Like,
So what are you
there
thinking?
are some things that I've learned over the years of doing photo shoots. And I tried really hard to prevent, for example, like we know that wearing clothes that aren't fitted in a photo shoot suit no one. So it's like my tip, the tighter the better is really what I think looks best in a photo shoot. So when we were taking shots and doing some of our outfit changes, I initially started to get stressed out because I was like, I didn't follow that rule about that. And I brought a couple of things.
You brought a very blousy blouse.
I brought like a midriff exposing like cropped white, super cute Zara button down. It's like an amazing staple.
So cute.
Not in camera.
No.
Not for a photo shoot, So I was like, God damn it. You didn't I wanted every outfit to slap. And that bothered me because
that explains that. Okay.
Because I know from both of us in our experience with photo shoots, like if one of us doesn't like ourselves,
then we're out a lot of photos.
That's like a waste of a bunch of photos. And I don't want to do that. But
no.
I also have been the person that for a very long time was like, I don't care. And now I'm more like, I do care. I don't like the way that looks. And I'm not going to give that an okay. And that bothers me because that's a waste. And so that caused anxiety for me. It wasn't like this, like, it wasn't really like me. That was one of the big things. I'm like, oh my God, how many? So when I was telling you, it's all right, no matter what, we'll just take more photos. We'll just have to do more.
And I was like, absolutely not. We just spent hundreds of dollars on photos, on hair, on some clothes.
Yep. And so that was giving me anxiety, and I'm like, well, and then also I told you, remember, I went and got my hair pulled up. I decided I'm going to get my hair pulled up. And now, the only time I really wear my hair down is for a photo shoot or if I feel like I have to fix my hair.
It looks amazing in every photo shoot.
It looked great. The hair, in every photo shoot, you think
Almost in
that's the
every photo
reason?
shoot. Yes. I think hair, because hair, it's a little bit more manageable down.
You can play with it.
You can play with it. You can repart it. You can brush it out. You can
Mhm.
throw it up in a ponytail. Once you lock into a high pony,
It's a
you are
commitment.
locked in.
And
I
that
was
was,
surprised by that you went that route.
and I was so that was also giving me anxiety because I saw one shot in Alina's camera where, like I'm growing out my grays. And
Yeah,
so like my hair at my base, my root is lighter now than my hair in my ponytail. And it didn't actually even translate onto photo, but I thought that that was going to be something that was my big concern was I was not going to be happy with any of the pictures. And then you and I were going to have a sisters quarrel
for
over
sure.
how we were going
Taking
to
more
use those
photos.
photos and what was that. That was honestly the crux of my anxiety.
And guess what? They turned out
Home run,
wonderful.
home run.
Home run.
Couldn't be
That just
happier.
goes to show, I sent you
Overthinking.
a little screenshot the other day. I followed this like Buddhism Facebook page, and it was like, and this, I saw this. I'm like, this really speaks to me. Worrying is like worshiping the problem. And I was
It's
like,
so
oh,
it's so
it's
true. I
so
mean,
true.
that should be like put tattooed on my forehead.
Oh my
Now,
God.
and I totally agree with that. But this is the thing, something that I've gotten better about in the worrying department is I used to worry and not label my worry. And
Mm,
that was fucking worse. Walking around kind of just not really figuring out what the source was. At least now I'm better at getting to the crux of the
yes.
worry and then I barf it out. And at least
Mm,
when it's released out of my mouth, it's like barfing up the worm in the tequila bottle. You know what I'm saying?
gross.
It's
Gross.
it's like I got it out, so at least the poison, there's like a little residual, but for the most part, I'm moving forward with this. We're
Mm.
walking in a different direction.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I wanted to share something with you that I don't think I've shared with you or our listeners
Oh,
or our whiffs yet,
yeah,
So we
what?
share a lot with with our whiffs and with one another. And this is in the photo department. And, a while back, so 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I had Luna, and about 3 months, maybe even 4 months after I had Luna, my doula was like, I have your whole birth plan for you. It was really phenomenal. I mean, it was like a binder of everything, like timestamps, you name it. And then at the end of the birth plan is this little packet, and I'm like, what's in here? And I pull out the packet, and it's a whole collection of photos, and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my
Of the
God.
birth?
Yeah. So someone at Walgreens here in Chicago has seen the crowning of Luna, my butthole, my tits hanging out, the most primal moments of my entire life.
We're not doing a digital
Like
transfer on this?
100 photos, not just a couple, like all of them, not just like the top 3 most spectacular photos of like there. I've got this amazing photo of Luna coming out of my vagina. And if you press on it, it's alive. And you just see her like wiggle out and the umbilical cord. It's
Oh,
so it's so natchy, right? And it's one of the coolest photos
that's
I
gonna be
showed
really cool for
people.
her to see.
Yeah, I'm all about it. Honestly, and I don't even care that someone saw it. It's like, here, this is what birth looks like. If you slept through sex ed, sir, or madame, now you
Yeah,
know
now you have it.
what a live birth looks like. I was just so surprised, and at the same time also didn't care at all. But yeah, so if you ever feel bad about any photos you've taken, just think back to the fact that I
That John
legit,
at the
yeah, John
Walgreens on
at
the corner of
Walgreens,
Halstead and Ishkabibble saw your fucking asshole.
everything,
Wow. Well,
everything.
and that may have changed him in ways he wasn't expecting,
Totally,
or it may set
totally.
him up for his birth if he hasn't experienced one yet. So, Lauren, you said that you just noticed this packet of pictures. How
No,
long
I
ago did you
noticed
see these
this 2 years
pictures?
ago when I got him. I was just thinking about the other
Okay.
day because I drove
Okay.
past a Walgreens, and then that, jogged a memory. And then you talking
Yeah.
about like, oh, bad photo. I'm like, listen, compared to what people have seen out there, your hair being pulled back in a billowy shirt, ain't nothing to lose sleep over. That's all I'm
You're so
saying.
right. You're so
It
right.
is. It
But I really
is.
wanted you to know that it's like it was less about me being vain and more about
Hey,
the
listen, these are biz
waste
photos.
of time
Be as vain
and
as you
money.
want. Yeah, it's just one of those things. Now, like maybe, have an extra pair of glasses on hand and think long and hard about how you want your hair. That's all that matters. But your
Mhm.
hair looked great, by the way. It
It
looked
did. It looked
fantastic.
cute. She did a good job.
I wanted to
Shout
share.
out to my gal at 10 Friends. She did an awesome job. She put it up. We started with a bigger bump up front, but I told her I had
Bump
PTSD
it.
from my wedding when I looked like I had an alien head.
Loved
And
your
so
wedding
we
photos too.
brought that thing back down.
You looked stunning at your wedding. Michelle, a couple friends of mine and we went out to dinner last week. On Thursday, we went to a really amazing restaurant called Rootstock, which is over in Humboldt Park. It's at the corners. People around the area know it's right. You guys, it's right across the streetish from Spinning Jay's, which is a great bakery and soda shop. Some good stuff over that way. And this place, Rootstock, is very unassuming. We walk by it, and you're like, "What?" You just don't think it is what it is. You walk in, and the mystery still is unfolding. Like there's it's a bunch of like old like dining room tables from like nonas that have passed
Oh, that's
away,
cool.
tons of unmatching chairs. It's really a
Oh,
vibe.
cool. Yeah, I like that.
There's like string lights up on the ceiling, but only a couple are twinkling.
Uh-oh.
This
Sounds like I
place
need to
just,
get up there.
but it's that's the vibe and the mood. And you walk in and then you start, then, listen, once the bartender who is also serving the tables, he comes over, it's a wine and beer restaurant. So there's a ton of amazing options. It's a place like where it's like you have like a 7-10 page menu of just wines and beers
What'd
from
you
all
have?
over the
What did
world.
you choose as
Well,
your
I can't really go too crazy with wine. I had a glass later. He did pick out an Italian wine for my scallops, but he made me a dirty martini. It was one of the best dirty martinis I've had in a very long time. It was
son?
fantastic. And once that touched my lips, I knew that we were on the road to having a very good meal. And we did. I mean, the way the food was coming out, I'm like, this is like a gourmet restaurant. Like I didn't see it coming. So we're eating, we're enjoying ourselves, we're having great conversation, and we're like really invested in what we're talking about. And it's all of a sudden, I told you a little bit about this story, all of a sudden, and it's very strange that what happened next happened because I was almost daydreaming while we were having this conversation. I was thinking about the current state of our lives right now. And I was with two of my friends who happen to be gay. My best friends are just,
Mm.
and we're sitting there talking like, God forbid, what if like this place got fucking raided for something? I don't know. I'm thinking about like sometimes when I'm
So
in these
that's like
old
just going through your head. Like
for
that's
a
a thought
moment.
for a
Well,
moment.
because like I'm thinking because I'm just so, yes, it went, I wasn't worrying. I wasn't like, oh no, we're going to get raided. What I've been doing sometimes is when we get into these old restaurants, sometimes I think about like, what was it like when these raids were going on, whether it was, back in World War II and they were just like
Mhm.
pulling people out. Like what must have that been like for humans to experience something
Mhm.
like that? Like that's
Mhm.
insanity. And now, you hear a story about ICE raids and, I'm at a restaurant. You never know, right? So we're sitting there and I'm just enjoying the company of my friends. And all of a sudden I hear, ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? And very strong and very like, I mean,
Did
everyone
did
stop
the
talking.
person who said that, did he have like a towel over his arm? Did he come out of like a dark
No, he had
room
like
with like
clogs on and
okay.
he had like a couple of necklaces with crystals. I mean, I turned around and I was like, oh my God. I've never been in a restaurant setting where someone has called for all of our attention. And so I was like, what the fuck is going on? So I turn around and I'm looking at this little man and he was like, it's like, tonight is the night that the Chicago Hedge is happening. And right over yonder at Chicago, I mean, it was a theater production at this point. He was like telling us it's Chicago Hedge, which is when the
It's
sun is set.
hedge, not henge, right?
Hedge, like
He-
Stonehenge.
I thought it was Stonehenge.
It very well may be. Let's look it up. I
Because
don't
isn't a
know.
hedge like what trees when you landscape bushes? Those are
Yeah,
hedges. I
that's
thought it
Hedge.
was henge,
You are right. It's Chicago
and
Henge.
that whiff is my purpose as Lauren's sidekick.
Look how pretty that is.
And that is incredible. Okay, so what
so
street were
he
you
said
looking down?
basically Chicago Avenue, I believe. I thought it was Chicago. Or was it
Because you can
California? I
see
don't
this
know.
in other on different streets in the
Yes,
city
because
at
of
the
the
same
grid
time.
system. It's like such a
Got
perfect,
it.
right. So Chicago Henge. Yeah, you're right. Because it's like Stonehenge. Listen,
Mhm.
this is not my forte. I got other,
Here to help. Here to
I got
help.
other pros going on.
Here to
So
help.
he's like, you guys, Chicago Henge is now taking place. If you'd like to leave your tables and walk outside, and you've got to go into the middle of the street to see it. You can't like peek around the corner. You got to literally wait for a red light, stand in front of cars that are waiting for their green light, and go see it. And when we got back and we saw it, it's spectacular. I've seen it before. It's just, it's
I never
remarkable.
have.
It's very, very cool. So we go back and we sit down, and I shared with, my friends, Maggie and Patrick. I'm like, I got to be honest with you. I thought like we were going to get raided or something. And they were like, yeah, that was pretty fucking weird. Like what was going on, and that just goes to show the climate
Where the
that we
mind
are living in.
is. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. And
Well, and you're not the
listen,
first one. When we were with our friend, when we were with Matt, Rodriguez,
Rodriguez, yeah.
he shared
He is,
some
well,
of
you know
those.
what? He has shared that with me before. And I think that's why it's kind of that little light switch went on in my brain. Cause he has shared like, oh, one of these days, I feel like we're just going to all be pulled out to buses. You know what I'm saying?
Because I have to be honest, that's not a thought because I'm a privileged white woman that in America that doesn't cross
no one's
my
coming
mind.
for you.
I'm not, that's not
no
a
one's coming
fear
for you.
I live with,
And this is not something that usually goes through my mind when I'm sitting in a space enjoying a dinner with my friends. I am typically prior to this year, I was never sitting in a place worried about a raid. I was worried about other things that are very real in our country, but that wasn't one of them. So I think also Matt kind of turned that little light switch on for me. But I am happy to report that there was indeed no raid, and we went and saw the Chicago Henge.
Love it.
Which will happen again, I guess, at the fall, the change of the
did
seasons.
it happen on the actual equinox?
Yes, it was the first day of the fall, of spring, rather.
That is,
I know,
so
cool. And the fall equinox, I think it happens again.
Because it wouldn't be as cool if it didn't happen on the equinox. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's like here you
go.
go.
They built the city around
We built this city
on rock and roll. Are those the lyrics? God, I feel like we haven't sang.
So that was one of my highlights last week.
I would say that's a highlight.
Yeah.
I would say that's a super highlight. You got some highlights. I felt like I spent it felt like the majority of my weekend. It was just Saturday. I bed rotted from morning until Sunday morning, from Saturday morning.
Really?
Until Sunday morning. Yes.
I had no idea you were rotting.
I needed it. I could feel it because it was my third and final pig gig of March.
That's a lot.
And that was intense for a million different reasons. And so it's late nights, it's a lot of brain power, loud music.
You're on.
My battery is drained. Okay. So Saturday I was like, you know what? I'm going to lay in bed and I'm going to fucking chill out all day.
Right.
And I rotted in between a couple of naps and some chapters, and I binged some shows. And I left my bed one time to go have like a early dinner with Ryan and Will. We went to Ella's Italian pub here in Western Springs, and they had some Detroit style pizza. And then I came home and I was like, see ya. And
you went back to your rotting.
Yeah, because like the wrestling nationals championships were on. So Ryan was like out with his dudes, and it was like and Will's not feeling great, and Mia was with her girlfriends. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to clean my closet. I'm going to do nothing. And that's what I did.
Oh my God. Congratulations on that. Everyone deserves some rotting. Now,
I recommend it.
While you were rotting, and this is a great segue into our conversation, while you were bed rotting on Saturday, I had a lot of work. I did some yoga stuff, and then I had to get ready to go to an engagement party for my brother-in-law who's getting married.
Oh.
And the group of people that were there, I was excited to see because they're like guys that I've known since like high school. It's like the Italian group of friends on Anthony's side.
Fun.
And it was fun. Caught up with a lot of people. And I decided prior to going to this party that I was going to exercise and practice my listening skills and my conversation skills. And I learned so much about random topics that I just never knew about. One I did know about, and I will share. But I always think, I believe it was Bill Nye who said I think it was Bill Nye who said you can always learn something from someone else.
Yep.
And I love that because everyone's got something that you don't know about. And so a few of the highlights that I learned about talking to a couple of individuals who I've known for years, but haven't seen them in a while. One of my friends, it works in the painting. He's a painter. He works in the union. And he was telling me how he's working hard on getting out of the painting union to get into the elevator union. So I learned all about like the lottery system.
Didn't know there
there
was an elevator union.
I learned all about the lottery system there. You get a number and you wait until you get your number pulled. Like there's all these like things that go into being a union member and then trying to switch from one union to the other. Found the conversation fascinating. I don't know anything
getting
about
into
these.
a union, you can't just be like, I've changed my mind. I'm going to switch unions.
I think it takes time and patience.
Yeah,
There's a process. And then I was telling him, I know a little bit about some elevator stuff because our handyman, shout out to Steve, great handyman. He went into the elevator union and then he was so into it, he built his own elevator business, like to repair elevators. So I was telling him about that. So, okay, right. So now we're switching, going gears.
God, the Monadnock could have used a couple of folks in the elevator union. I'll never forget when that motherfucking elevator free fell.
That is very scary.
And
that sounds terrifying.
And the lights went out.
Oh, were you in it?
Yeah. And when I got out, I had a full-blown panic attack.
Oh, that's so scary.
I lost my mind.
I worked at the James Hotel many, many moons ago, and a group of guests got legitimately stuck between floors for, I think, almost 3 hours.
Damn.
They were stuck. And so my job, I was appointed to go and make them feel comfortable and go make deliveries. So I was bringing in pizzas and martinis on trays. Oh yeah. And my coworker, that's the word I was looking for, taught me that when you're carrying a tray of martinis, don't look at your tray, just look forward. Because the more you look, the more will spill.
Shakes. God,
so
I would just be fired
forward.
As a
oh my God.
Delivery.
It was such an experience. Anyways.
Because people couldn't crawl out, like for fear if the elevator shifted or something.
No, we had enough space to get like a pizza in sideways and perfect. Like to give some martinis. They were fine.
That's
but
hysterical.
Hours. And then the firemen came in and everything. So then I moved on to another conversation with another old friend of ours. And on the table, he had a pack of Zyn. You know Zyn?
Yeah.
Okay, they're the like nicotine packets. So now I'm like, you know what? I got a couple questions. Like, what is it about the Zyn? So then we started talking about the difference between like chewing tobacco and Zyn. With Zyn,
what is the difference?
Well, with Zyn, you don't have to spit. It's in a packet. So it's just basically getting into your gum line.
But are you swallowing anything? Like, so you're just like a normal person just with a Zyn in your lip?
Yeah, basically.
Got it. Okay.
And we talked about the swallowing of like chewing tobacco. Like you can get really sick, probably throwing up. And if you do it for a long time, probably even worse. So then I was like finding myself talking about and learning about chewing tobacco, something I've never engaged in, never will. But again, still interesting to hear about.
No, when I was in college, I'm not going to lie, I picked up a bottle of beer, thought it was mine, and it had been the receptacle for somebody's spit. And that's exactly what I did. Barf.
That is disgusting.
Horrid.
And then I got talking to a couple moms who have one baby and they're wanting to have more. And then they were sharing with me about how hard it is, as we know, to be working moms. And like, there's this fear of how am I going to keep my job now with 2 kids? How am I going to work and spend time with the kids?
I think the focus should be on how you're going to keep your wits about you, because the fact of the matter is, it's just, that should be the leaderboard of struggles. How are you going to keep the wits?
Right. And I think, but then I found myself in a discussion with moms about being a working mom and how time, you now, and I follow other motherhood, Instagram handles and whatnot. And you see a lot now, like how that village, people don't have that village like they used to back in the day. Like,
Mhm.
at least, even for me, I don't have like, like, yes, Anthony's mother-in-law, and she comes and helps us, of
Mhm.
course. But like, our grandmother was at our house all the time, ironing clothes. Mom could leave the house at any
Mhm.
moment if she needed to when we were kids, probably if grandma was there, and bounce out and do a couple things. Life is different. Mom wasn't working and whatnot, but just, it was interesting to have this conversation with moms and about like the hardships of balancing a full fucking time job
Yeah.
and raising kids. It's
Mhm.
not fucking easy.
No.
And their partner's working too. So it's
Mhm.
not like they're, holding all the responsibilities. Everyone's working.
But at the end of the day, and I'll say this once, I'll say it 1,000 times, the mom carries the brunt of the
Exactly.
responsibility no matter what. It
Exactly.
falls on the mom. The invisible
Mm-hmm.
mental load, that falls on the mom.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Everything.
job, if your baby's sick, most of the time, guess who's
Your
staying
job.
home?
Yes.
You are.
You got to deal with your job.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Uh-huh.
And then you got to make up your work that you missed at your job when you get back from taking care of your baby. And let's hope you don't get sick from being sick.
Of
Anyway.
course. But that's the kind of conversations we were having.
Yeah.
And I found
That
what
sounds
was
like a good
helping.
convo.
Well, so many good conversations, just leaning into different vibes where everyone meeting people where they are in their life. That's where I found what I was doing was leaning into examining and questioning about people's lives where they are. And I did a lot of question asking. They say that one of the best tools you can do is ask who you're talking to questions about themselves.
Because
Not
people love to talk about themselves.
They do.
Yeah.
And it's exciting when someone shows
Mhm.
interest in you. I don't
Feels
know. I
good.
like when someone asks
It's so
me.
rare for people I know to ask me anything that when they do, I look around to see if they're actually talking to me. I'm like, "Wait,
Right.
me?"
So I was excited to do that for somebody else. So this really got me thinking about how to have better conversations. So Michelle and I both tuned into, so we're going to kind of inject what we listened to this week. And this week we listened to a Hidden Brain episode. And if you have not yet tapped into the Hidden Brain podcasts, oh, it's a wealth of knowledge.
I need
So
to tap more into
oh,
those.
they are so interesting. I forget his name. His voice is so soothing, and it's just, he carries such a great cadence in the way he kind
Mhm.
of converses with his guests. So this Hidden Brain was called We Need to Talk. And it was a 2-part series. And the follow up to that is how to have hard conversations with people. But this one was just how to have better conversations with people. And so I wanted to share a few takeaways that I got from this episode so that people can either just use what I'm sharing or they can go and listen to it in its entirety. And Michelle, I'm interested to hear about your takeaways as well. But a couple of the things that I found very interesting were these. First of all, people's minds wander 24% of the time that they are in a conversation. I thought that was low.
I thought that was low because I feel like my mind wanders about 62% of the time. I
Okay,
mean, I have
interesting.
to work. For me, the conversation about listening and staying focused is the hard part. The asking the question and being the one that's being curious, champion at
So
that.
yes, I agree. You are very good at that. We're going to go into tips on how to stay more mindful during conversation. So that was just a little stat for our whiff out there. Another great tip and takeaway from this conversation that I implemented over the weekend was to consider when you're going to go see people and socialize, almost start to jog up some topics that maybe you're thinking about talking to them, just like you would do if you were being called into a business meeting. Typically, when you're in a business meeting, you know what you're sitting down to discuss. Why make it any different than when you're going to go and socialize with
I like that.
people?
A little game
Yeah.
plan.
Just you don't have to go and write like a whole book about it, but you
Mhm.
can just go and have some ideas on how you're going to tend to conversation with people, maybe what things you saw on social media lately that will be like, oh, I saw that you guys were in Tahiti. What was that like? Let them talk. Let her rip. Another one is that switching topics. If you start to become like a really good conversationist, switching topics becomes an art form. If you are able to switch topics and navigate and almost take the person you're talking to on a journey and switching topics with them about them. And then once you find something that you're like, let's dive
That
deeper.
hits.
And
That slaps.
if it starts slapping and you're able to take them, okay, tell me more. What was it like getting from the airport to your resort in Tahiti? I heard that it's quite a trek to go from one place to the other. Was it a car? Was it a four-wheeler? Like, who drove? And then the person just starts going, whatever. So things like that. That's when you start to become a real good conversationalist.
Champion.
Uh-huh. A way that shows the person that you're talking to that you are really listening is when you ask specific follow-up questions to exactly what they are talking about on topic, or an offshoot that plays on the topic that they're talking about.
Okay.
So something within the realm of, their conversation that they're having with you, or again, dive deeper and ask them questions specifically about what they are talking to you about. So exciting. Love this kind of shit. The other thing is, yes.
I was just thinking about the bad conversations I have with people, and I was just having a conversation with somebody about a person that I thought in my mind didn't have great conversations because it felt like a one-sided conversation where I was doing all the asking and the partner converser was doing all the talking, but there wasn't a back and forth. And that was that is a bummer for me. Like, I like to be that person, but it's nice to be the recipient
to go back and forth.
Curiosity from the person you're conversing with.
Totally. So in this conversation on Hidden Brain, they talked about trap doors, conversation trap doors, where you almost like fall into this abyss of just hearing someone kind of talk about themselves. So
those are the worst conversations I ever have.
It's just not, it's a little self-centered. So the communication expert that was on with Hidden Brain was telling a story about how she met a man on a blind date, and on paper, he was like, let's get married. She was like, let's just propose tonight. In person, she found herself asking him all the questions. And then at some point she looked at her like wristwatch and she's like, oh my God, she started having contests with herself. 5 minutes went by, 10 minutes went by, 15 minutes went by, like 20 minutes went by. And he was just talking about himself and never once paused to say, okay, well, I've told you a lot about me. Tell me about you. He just kind of went on this roller coaster of his own storytelling, which also brought me back to a date that I went on like 1,000 years ago. And I had same thing, really good looking guy on paper. All of the signs point to like, this is like a great dateable dude, like owned his own business, just doing good things in life and a really nice reputation amongst the people who had set me up with him. So I was kind of like, okay, this is like a normal guy. And I at that point had dated plenty of not normal people. So this was kind of refreshing. And here's the thing. Really nice guy, but he failed in the conversing department. He couldn't have them. And it's because there were a couple of things there.
What?
He was exceptionally shy, and no one told me that. So I didn't know about that. And as we know, I'm not shy. So that could be a little like, whoa, it's like oil and vinegar. And, I think he came prepared to have conversations and tell the same two stories. We went on 3 dates to tell the same 2 dates, same like 2 or 3 stories that he had told on the first date. He was like, okay, this locked me in for a second date. And I think he just came with the same stories. And then afterwards, he's like, hey, do you want to go back to my place? And we both smoked cigs. He's like, we could drink some red wine and smoke cigs on the patio. And I was like, yes, let's go. Let's fucking go chain smoke. So on the porch we are. And then he disappeared. And then I'm sitting there smoking all these cigs, drinking wine. I'm like this. And he shared a condo with his brother at the time. And I'm like, this guy's brother's going to come home. Like, where did he go? It's been
How
like
long
20
was it?
minutes.
Yeah.
20 minutes. And so I finally like put out my cig. I walk inside, and as I peeked around and looked like into the bedroom, I saw his feet like dangling off of the bed, and he had fallen asleep, and he'd fallen asleep. And I think he bored himself to death. So he fell asleep. Okay. He fell asleep. I left, got like a cab. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And the next day he text messaged me and told me that he was so nervous that he took 2 Xanax before our date. 2. And that he,
Good golly.
yep. And that all that
That'll put you
wine made
down.
him sleepy.
No shit. He
Yeah.
tranked himself into a long nap.
Right. And so, and so super nice guy. I hope that he's doing well and found a
I know.
perfect
Did you ever
match.
hear whatever happened to him?
No.
He's not
But
hosting
you know
talk
what?
shows or anything.
No, he's not. But you know,
Running a
that
podcast.
really, that the ability to have conversations can make or break so many different things. So I thought it would be kind of fun to just go over some really easy ways that our listener with, and Michelle, you and I can be better in conversations. And so these were really just basic, basic tips that anyone can utilize when they find themselves in the opportunity to engage in conversing with somebody else. So I'm going to kind of just go down. We've mentioned some, but one of the ones that you said you struggle with is like, you're like, my mind wanders and you go in 50 different directions mentally. And as do I occasionally. But what I find helps, and this tip here is very helpful, it's put down the phone. The minute you start looking at your phone, you're the rudest conversationist ever, because why are you looking at your phone
I
if
think
someone's
it's
talking to you?
conversationalist.
Great.
But maybe
That's the word.
conversationist is a word. But
I like that word, but we're going to go with
You've toggled
conversationalist.
back and forth between it, but you know what? We're going with conversationalist.
Let's go
for
with
the rest.
it. I don't
mean,
even-
after all, our podcast called Cozy Conversations, we gotta
I
know
am
how
a
to.
conversationalist.
Yeah.
So thank you. To be fully present, put down the phone, make eye contact. This way, if you're locking eyes, you're in it. You're in it to win it. The other thing I sometimes do, especially if it's a little loud, is I look at their lips. I want to see the words coming out of their mouth. And sometimes I can't hear them because it's so loud. So I'm trying to read lips too.
And that's actually one of my biggest struggles. I feel like setting, for me personally, can either make or break a great conversation. If I'm in an intimate setting, last night I sat around a counter and I had a conversation with a young lady. We went back and forth for quite a bit of time. That's easy. But sometimes when I'm in a setting where it's a lot of high action, chaos,
there's a lot
of
going
people,
on.
You really have to
dial in
and use the tips that you've just shared, because otherwise I've left the building. I'm still there, but I've left the building.
Yep. And it's once someone, I think, realizes that someone's left the building, it's hard to sometimes, how do you recover from that, you know? And then it gets kind of awkward, especially if it's not just like your friend, but it's someone you haven't seen in a while. So now you're feeling weird and awkward. Ask real questions, ask somebody about themselves. Go deeper than the, how are you? What's going on lately? What's new? Ask them, what I do. What are we reading and watching? I ask straight up, what are we doing? Let's talk about it. And then you find that you get conversation going.
My go-tos are that, and also, what are you making? What's your next meal? What are you making? What are you eating?
I love that.
Those are like my 3 just
your go-tos.
They never fail go-to conversation starters.
Next up, listen to understand, not to respond. I think we all have that little gal in the back of the head that's like, oh, I got to chime in. I got to tell you what and it's one of those where you're just like, I have to sometimes be like, shut up. And guess what? If you forget about it, that's okay. If you forget about what you wanted to respond, let it go. And
also, that might be the sign that it wasn't that big of a deal. If it's super important, if you really want to make a point, it'll come back around or it'll stay with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Next up, lead with curiosity, not judgment. So this one's about like when you're having conversations with people with different perspectives, lean in with curiosity. So instead of being judgmental, ask them more questions about it. I mean, and I feel like we are all living in a space, if you're willing and able to not get too fucking pissed off and triggered, ask questions. Why do you think that this is a good way that we're going about that? Like if you find yourself in that position to do so.
I think that's like one of the great problems of the time that we're in right now, is it's like the world seems like we've failed to be able to have hard conversations without getting burning fucking mad. Like, people aren't supposed to agree on every front. People
Mm-hmm.
aren't supposed to have the same beliefs.
No,
That would be really boring. And then that's just not possible. But being, like you said, leaning into the curiosity and not leaving the judgment at the door so you can maybe learn something or
yep,
have a different perspective. And then you leave with just a broader understanding of a topic that you might have had no fucking clue about to begin with.
totally. And everyone's lives are so different that
Mhm.
just because someone thinks or does something one way and someone doesn't mean that
That it's right
they're
or
right.
wrong.
Exactly. That
And
could
then
just be
also,
how they are experiencing their life.
exactly. And that oftentimes is those perspectives or beliefs or ideals or like those foundational core, whatever is that was born out of an experience. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people think and feel a certain way for a certain reason a lot of times. Sometimes
Totally.
they're indoctrinated and sometimes they get brainwashed. But a lot of the time it's like, well, I feel that way because, and and guess
Exactly.
what? Here's my story.
Yeah. And
And
then you
then
might
that's your
learn.
opportunity to lean in and really have a great conversation.
Which also really leads into the next tip, which is validate, don't fix. More so let the person that you're chatting with know that you listen to them. They say that repeating what someone just said, like, okay, let me get this right. I'm hearing you say that. And then you kind of roll down
Yeah.
the quick, synopsis of what they're sharing with
Yeah.
you, or a lot of head nodding and just letting them know that you are
Mm.
participating mentally and you are clocked in. The next one is to watch for body language. And they're talking about the person that you're speaking to, but also they're really talking about yourself. Your own body language, nonverbal communication speaks volumes.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'm comfortable with my arms crossed, but that is the biggest no-no
Yeah.
when you are talking to someone. And the minute I find myself doing it, I relax my arms and then I hold my hands in like a little kneaded bread, hold my hands together. I clasp them together and rest them on my thigh or at the sides of my body, because this is telling someone the arms closed is nonverbal for like, I'm closed
Stay the
off.
fuck
I'm
away.
protective.
I'm
Stay the
guarded.
fuck away.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also eyes, posture, and facial features. So if your eyes are going elsewhere, you are distracting the person that you're chatting with and they're going to start looking around too. They know
Mhm.
right
Oh God.
away you're not clocked in.
I'm very guilty of that and causing that disruption, something I'm very aware of, but oftentimes need to focus on.
No worries. We're not here to beat ourselves up. We're here to learn. The last one is don't make it about you right away. Ask the questions. If you're genuinely asking someone a question about themselves, allow them the space and the time to answer, respond, and share. The
Oh,
minute you ask a question only to invite yourself back into the conversation to share all about you, you have hijacked the conversation and the
and
person
it's
you're
not
talking
one.
to. And it's also obvious. It's like you asked me a question just so you can go, you can do your own thing. And so I guess now I'm going to be the active listener and just listen to
Totally.
you. And that's the
Mm.
fair thing. I mean, if you're there with that person and you have to, then perhaps that's the right thing to do. What I always work on is the exit route, how to get out of the conversation you're in, either because it's taken up the time, you have chatted enough, and now you're kind of just like, okay, how do we close the
Yeah.
shop door on this one? Or you've got other people to go chat with. And I think a really lovely closure. Hey, it has been so much fun talking to you. I haven't
Yeah.
seen you in so long. This has been great. I love learning about the elevator union. Had no idea.
Mhm.
But there's Larry over there and we haven't
Yeah.
chatted in ages. And now I got to go chat with
I'm going
him.
to go work
So
the room.
here's
Have a
a
good
kiss,
one.
kiss, hug. Gotta go. And I'll see you before I leave. I think it's a really
So
easy
simple and
and
effective.
close. Yeah.
Puts a
Very.
nice red bow
Oh,
on the whole thing.
yeah. So now that we've discussed this, Michelle,
Yeah.
where do you find that you can probably work on the best? You've mentioned like staying clocked in and whatnot, but are there any other areas that you think that maybe you can work on or are excited to
Yes.
work on?
Lauren is my counterpart and business partner. You could probably fucking answer this question. Staying focused is hard in chaotic
Yeah.
situations. And also like being a listener and not a reactor. And that
Yeah.
is, I don't know if that's just like ingrained in my DNA because of my own experience in a not really very effectively communicative household
Yep.
growing up. So for me, I really have to, I was watching, kind of doing a little bit of perusing on TikTok and stuff, just researching like good conversations.
Sure.
And one of the best tips and takeaways that I got that for myself that I want to share is to make your first word be a breath. Take a breath.
Pause. I didn't even mention that. Thank you for that.
And
Pause before responding.
That was like revelatory for me. I'm like,
Yes.
what? I can take a breath and that can be
Yes.
my first word? Okay.
That's a wonderful tip. I love that.
And that's what I need to work on, doing that.
Bless.
Yeah.
All right. I hope that these tips leave our leaving this conversation feeling more empowered to have more thorough, thought-provoking, and personal conversations with people. Back in college, I studied communications, and I feel like I did walk away with some knowledge. I loved learning about interpersonal communication, nonverbal. It's such a unique area of being a human where you can either make or break a situation. And especially like for next week, I am going to listen to The Hidden Brain. Having the hard conversations, those are where I have to work really hard on. But I just feel like if you listen and learn more about conversing, and if you're willing to listen to the person you're talking to, a lot more good could be done than the deterioration of relationships or communication breakdown. Really, really good stuff. Now, speaking of communication, Michelle, you and I were chatting last week. We got into a little tuffle, but I always feel like you and I have gotten really, really skilled at listening and resolving whatever we go through.
It's amazing.
Really do. And because I think people might think, oh, do they get into arguments? Yeah, we get into arguments. We don't get into fights that are like nasty and scary.
No.
But we get into disagreements. No, you don't fuck up. The funny one was when Michelle and I got into something, and after I said, I don't know about this idea, and I asked her some questions like, do we have to do it this way? Like, what does it look like when it arrives? We were talking about business stuff. And then later in the conversation, she trailed back, said something to me. I got pissed. And then she said, Michelle, when you were like, well, maybe if you would have asked in a more constructive way, we wouldn't be here. And I was like, but I did though. I asked you like 4 questions.
Then we all broke it all down. And here was me at the end. You're right. I'm sorry. I should have taken a breath.
Let me ask a question. Where do you, when that happens, I do out of pure curiosity. When I did ask those questions, did you, like the follow-up questions to discover more about the issue that we were having, did you not remember that I asked you those, or were those not good enough for you? Would you have preferred me to say it in a different way? I know I have a tone issue sometimes. I do. I am a Scorpio. I'm feisty.
That was it for me.
It was just, it wasn't
because I opened the gates with a suggestion, and your response to me was, I think I could have said that in 1,000 different ways, and it wouldn't have been, to me, passive aggressive. And that's what I was hanging on.
Got it.
Nothing else mattered. I was hanging on I was getting a message that wasn't direct in that statement. Okay. It was like, and that bothered me.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Kind of. I mean, I
don't remember the order of events. I remember I called you, I came up with an idea. You responded in a way that made me feel shitty, kind of.
Okay.
And that's where I was coming. Does that align with that conversation?
I think you hung on the tone that I gave, and that's fair.
Tone.
Totally.
It was the tone.
And that's totally fair. And I did, with this tone, ask constructive questions. But then later when you were like, you could have been more constructive. And I'm like, okay, well, I think I probably could have lost the attitude and just stayed constructive.
Yeah. There you go.
I think.
You know what? I mean, listen, of course we like get into it and have first of all, we're sisters. We have a business together. Like there are growing pains.
And we're different.
Every single day. And we're super different. Like, and where there's 999 things that I they almost, I like take, it's an intake for me and an outtake, and maybe it's my rigid, unfeeling, robotic personality. I think that's the pattern where you and I have slip ups in our relationship. Is my personality is very different from yours in the way I process, manage, and sometimes even like prioritize caring about things.
Mm,
Where, and not to say what that issue was about, the crux of it, I understand the sensitivity why we got into things, but there are things like that will happen during the day where you will say something and I'll just like, it'll bug me for a second and then I'll fucking never bring it up again. I just move on from
yeah,
it. And sometimes I get annoyed because I'm like, God, why can't she be more like me?
right.
Does that make sense?
Totally. It
Are you
totally
annoyed
makes.
with me right now?
All right, moving swiftly along to reading, watching, and listening to. This happens to be some of our WIF's favorite part of our conversation because we provide content that keeps them busy and we tell them don't watch it
Do
or
or
do
don't.
watch it, do
Do
or
or
don't.
don't.
I'm still working on my March books. Michelle, what are you reading?
I am making some headway in the Iron Flame. And ladies and gentlemen, the loins are starting to ache. I just
Oh
dusted
my
off my
God.
rubber sheets. They are
Okay, how smutty are these books? Like, are we
smutty. Okay, I'm
okay.
just diving into the smut. I'm about 3 pages away from the smut. Okay,
Okay.
like
Cannot wait to hear
we
all about it.
we're in a throbbing stage right
Oh my
now.
God. Okay, the sexual tension is running high. Amazing. Okay, I will share at the end of the month about my two books. Watching wise, I and Anthony, we watched The Murders at Fox Hollow on Hulu. This is a very, again, heavy true crime. It's about gay men going missing in the early 90s. Some friends and loved ones and a community chalked it, suspected they were passing away from AIDS because it was during the height of the AIDS epidemic. But then we realized that it is not indeed AIDS. It is a serial killer preying on gay men, and the lack of, perseverance from law enforcement to actually make this to turn this into a case and investigate. They kind of were like, gay guys dying, oh well. And it was a fucking problem, and it's a
That's
very,
crazy.
very sad because they have a lot of loved ones on the documentary who just want closure.
Yeah.
And these are boys, these were sons. Oh my
Hmm.
God, when you see the photos of these people, you're just like, they're human beings. How do
Well,
we just shrug our shoulders to people getting killed based on what or who they are?
and there
It's a
were
maddening.
and so many,
So many. There were,
so many.
so they said that this is okay, so they recovered and they suspect there's still more. 10,000 human remains, so bones and bits. They said it is the second highest number of like unknown remains to the World Trade Center. So that just goes to
Damn.
show how many individuals and what a sad, sad case this is. But it is worth watching, raising awareness. And of course, there's always some goofy characters, and we got ourselves one. His name's Mark Goodyear. And wowee.
Okay. Well,
Any good documentary stars somebody.
yeah.
What
So,
did you bed rot to?
well, I was low vibing on in the
Oh, wow, you
documentary
were.
space, and I watched. Don't know why. I maybe was missing mom, and I felt like this would bring me closer to her and her love for the movie Twister. So I put on The Twister, the documentary called Caught in the Storm. Okay. This is about the
Yeah.
massive, absolutely epic fucking tornado that blew through Joplin, Missouri in 2011 and literally decimated
Ugh,
the town.
tornadoes.
So many people destroyed, but and it just, you know what, I didn't like it. I
It
I
was
didn't.
too low
It was just
vibing.
very low vibing.
Sad.
The story's low vibing. The fucking disaster is horrific. The people in the town of Missouri, it's a rough situation.
There's a lot
And
going
then
on.
ultimately, like, it felt like it was like the end of the world via a Twister meets Stranger Things.
Oh, wow.
First season of
Wow.
Stranger Things, like with the music. And
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? My stomach hurts.
Lova.
I'm going to go open up the Iron Flame.
No, you're like, my stomach hurts. I'm going to go watch Ruby Frank. And you did binge Ruby Frank's Devil in the Family. And basically you have the same thoughts that I do.
I just want to say, like, I know you watched it and we talked about it last week, but really until I saw it for myself, I really could not actually comprehend how, like, I agree with you. Throw away the key.
Throw away, lock her and Jody up forever.
Those poor, beautiful kids. How sad. The dad's a loser. Get rid of him.
Yeah. How anyone can subject little kids to horrific conditions like that. Just be gone. Be gone.
How and Jody, anyone can still love Jody.
I don't know. And Jody, who was possessed by the demons. I've got her. She's mine. I'm like, seriously, you guys,
get her an Oscar.
Like, let's get out of here. She gets it. Like, oh my God.
What a loser.
Oh my God. So, and then of course, listening to Michelle and I both listen to the Hidden Brain. We Need to Talk. Again, I just highly recommend you following and subscribing to Hidden Brain. Nuggets of wisdom and wisdom upon wisdom.
Yeah.
Michelle, to end the show, I would like to share what my simple joy was last week with you first. Brother-in-law Ryan, you guys, sometimes we sound Mormon. We'll be like, Brother Ryan.
Why are we attached? Brother,
I love
cousin.
It. Brother Ryan came over on Friday last week, and we walked over to watch Mia play soccer at Whitney Young. And then we came back, just Brother Ryan. Mia had to go back on the bus with her teammate, and we ordered pizza. And we had such a lovely, it was the four of us. Luna, myself, Anthony, and Brother Ryan. And we had a lovely dinner. And my simple joy of last week was just spending time with Ryan. He made us listen to some Alice in Chains.
I can't.
And that was cool.
He's been making us listen to some Alice in Chains. Oh my God. He's on a kick.
We were on this, he had us take out the speaker. We shared a beer, and it was just a really lovely moment of spending time with my brother-in-law that I don't get enough time like that spent. So that was my simple joy last week. What about you guys?
You guys made Mia's day showing up there.
Oh, good.
My simple pleasure, having your house cleaned by someone else, I think most whiffs will agree, is a simple pleasure. It's a simple joy. And last week I was on with my cleaning service, and they deep cleaned the sleeping and bathroom areas of my home. And there is nothing more pleasurable and joyful than bed rotting in a
clean home
that is so clean you could literally eat off the floor.
Off the floor.
So,
and you said that this is Cleaning Authority.
Yes, the Cleaning Authority, who I found like a little flyer in my mailbox, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give these guys a whirl.
Yeah, take them up on their marketing.
And wowie, I mean, between the app that you log on to and the text correspondence and the paying via Zelle, there's just beautiful. It's just like the most automated, modern, and also cleanest home I've had in a very long time. And 5 stars, 5 stars.
If that's not a simple joy, then I'm telling you what is.
Right?
Bless. You guys, thank you, Whiff, for joining us on our cozy road to better conversations, noticing and acknowledging the simple joys in our life. Clock them in, find those glimmers, and as always,
stay cozy, Whiff.
Thank you for joining us for today's cozy conversation. For more of The Sister Project, check us out on Instagram at The Sister Proj and our website, www.thesisterprojectblog.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and maybe even drop us a review. Until next time, stay cozy.